I was selling spiritual sky incense, and I did a traveling route in Northern California. And I would stay sometimes at the house of Krishnadas, who was one of Prabhupada's first disciples from San Francisco. And Krishnadas had come back from Europe, and he had married a Swedish devotee, I think, and he had some children. And now he had resumed his jewelry business. And he was very gentle, very nice, and so we were friends. And I would stay at his house, but he had become more inclined towards Christianity than Krishna consciousness at this time. So we would have some discussions about that in the evenings. And sometimes, you know, he would, there would be some debate, some disagreement about Christianity. And anyway, later on, not too long from that time, he ended up on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada in San Francisco. And he told Srila Prabhupada that one of his disciples had said that the Christians were nonsense. And Prabhupada said, "Who is that? Who said that?" And Krishnadas said my name. And then Prabhupada, the discussion changed, and they continued on the morning walk. And later on in the morning walk, around the end, Prabhupada said, he turned and stopped and said, "So where are the Christians now?" It was around 6 in the morning. And Krishnadas said, "Well, Prabhupada, I guess they're sleeping." And Prabhupada said, "Therefore I say they're nonsense." So I was somewhat exonerated by that statement.
Then I'd come and be in the temple room when the greeting of the deities happened in the old temple. He'd come in from the back door, and the deities were towards the front. And we'd all go, "Prabhupada Jai!" And one time he was coming in the door, and I was yelling, "Prabhupada Jai!" He turned around and looked at me, raised his eyebrow, like, "What?" I didn't have anything to say. I was just yelling like a cheerleader at a football game, you know. So I didn't have anything to say, so I just paid my obeisances, you know. But after that, I realized he was a person. Before that, it was just kind of, he wasn't real to me. And then he looked at me, waiting for me to speak, and I was flabbergasted. I didn't have anything to say. And I pretty much didn't say anything to him the entire time, but I listened.
Once a professor from the university in Aligarh offered Srila Prabhupada a set of Bhagavatams which included the commentaries of all the different acharyas. So I was requested to go and pick the books up from Aligarh. So I went there in the temple car, and it's about a 3-hour journey from Vrindavan. And when I got there, that professor showed me those books, and they were in 2 piles on the floor. One pile was cantos 1 to 9 plus 11 and 12, and the other pile was 10th canto, which contained about 11 commentaries. So I was about to take the books, and the professor said, "I would like to become a life member in exchange for these books." So I wasn't sure what to do, but I thought, I've come all this way and Prabhupada needs these books, so I'd better take them somehow or other. I said that I'm sure you'll be able to become a life member, but I'll have to ask Srila Prabhupada. In the meantime, I'll take the books back to him. So when I brought the books back, Prabhupada examined them, and he was pleased. He said, "These are suitable." Then I told him that that man wanted to become a life member, and Prabhupada said, "These books are worth 1,000 rupees. Tell him to pay the balance and he can become a life member." So that time life membership was 2,222 rupees. But when that man was informed, he didn't want to pay. He wanted to take the books back, but actually Prabhupada never gave the books back. And I think that matter was only settled many, many years after Srila Prabhupada's departure. But Prabhupada used those books for translating the Srimad Bhagavatam and writing his commentaries.
We had told him that we were having more classes for the bhaktas, and he said it's a good idea to have more classes for the bhaktas. but they should not go beyond the jurisdiction of our books. So that's been a guiding principle for our Bhakti programs, is that we just teach from Prabhupada's books. He also mentioned about theater. He said theater based on Bhagavatam topics was a very nice way to present Krishna consciousness to the people in general. So that could be employed.
This is in a letter to me. He wrote me a letter, and he told me to worship Lord Chaitanya in my home and chant at least 16 rounds and read his books every day, and Maya will never touch me. And he told me that to always remain in the fire of Krishna consciousness. And he said that, and then your spiritual master will pray to Krishna for your spiritual advancement. So that's what I do in my life, try to do at least those 3 things every day. Follow his instructions.
The other thing I remember, this is actually in a letter, but it was a significant instruction from Prabhupada, and that was, Aniruddha was a lot younger then. I think he must have been about 1.5 or 2 at the time, and we were living in Coconut Grove, Florida. And I got this opportunity to take care of the deities there. And I thought, here's my chance to do a really important service. So I started doing that, and some other devotees took care of Aniruddha pretty much full time. And I wrote to Srila Prabhupada and I mentioned to him about this. And I had quite a chastisement about that through the mail. He said that it was very important that these children, taking care of the children was just as important as doing deity worship. One service was not more important than the other. And he said these children aren't ordinary children, they are Vaikuntha children. They have been sent by Krishna himself. So, he told me to stop doing the deity worship and take care of Aniruddha.
Prabhupada had just come in, and it was about 150 devotees there. It was tumultuous kirtan going on. And Prabhupada came in the door, and everyone was so happy to see him, and it was ecstatic. The kirtan was thundering. And Prabhupada stopped, and he saw Umapati. And Umapati was one of the first devotees. And evidently Prabhupada hadn't seen him for some time. And he stopped. And he began speaking with Umapati, and the kirtan died down or stopped, I forget, but it must have stopped because we could hear what he was saying. So Prabhupada said to Umapati, "Oh, it's very nice to see you. So you're here now?" And Umapati said, "Yes." And he said, "So what are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, I have a job. I'm doing some computer work, and I live outside." And Prabhupada said, "Oh, that's very nice." He said, "So are you giving 50%? And Umapati said, "Well, Srila Prabhupada, I'm not getting that much money, and the expenses, my apartment is." Prabhupada said, "You must give 50%, no matter how much or how little you earned." And then he walked off. And he left Umapati there somewhat dumbstruck by that statement. No compromise.
Once I was in Srila Prabhupada's house in Vrindavan in 1974, during the Mayapur Vrindavan festival. And that time, Madhavisa Swami was in the room, and he was just leaving. So he was saying goodbye to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was thanking him for his service. Prabhupada told him that you are a perfect leader. And he said, "I'm just trying to follow you, Srila Prabhupada." So Prabhupada replied, "Of course," he said, "without following properly, you can never become a perfect leader."
I suppose everyone knows how he entered the temple room as they blew the conch shell and the deity doors opened, and then he'd walk up to Gornitai's altar, pay his dandavats, and then we'd all pay obeisances, and then he'd go to Rukmini Dwarkadish, pay his dandavats, and he'd take Charnamrita, then he'd pay his dandavats, and then go back and sit on the Vyasasana and play a gong or cartels and start Jaya Radha Madhava. And one time, they gave him Charnamrita, and they used to fill his hand up. They had like a ladle. They'd pour a whole ladle of Charnamrita in his hand, his right hand, of course. And one time he took the Charnamrita and he says, "This is so nice, I would like to have some more." So I was expecting that he'd put his hand out and he'd get some more. But he just washed his hand and paid his dandabats and went on. You know, and Hari, my husband, said one time, well, maybe he was showing the example how we only use everything for Krishna's service, not for our own pleasure. So it tasted so good, he said, I'd like some more, but then he just paid obeisances.